again.
What are you doing? I'm fine. I don't know why I'm laughing, because I'm generally happy to see you. When it was the intro, was the waiting on bated breath that we've been sitting next to each other and we've just been waiting to say hello. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of We've Got This Maybe, the podcast. Wow, but what's been going on?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think noting we're totally in our thick knit era.
I know,
aren't we?
We're end of October now. Like, I'm ready for the summer. I'm happy to say that I'm ready for the sun. Like, even coming over here today, it was dark. It was dreary. Like, I'm feeling my winter.
Oh yeah, I'm living my. I mean, to be fair, I live for this. This is my season, because I do love a bit of Halloween. Love a bit of like a hygge, soft knit, fluffy socks.
I don't mind that,
blankets.
but I don't like how it makes me feel.
Oh,
Like the
good observation.
The
Yes.
energy it gives me. Like,
Fair.
I'm very much like a sun's out, happy personality. Like, the minute this sort of weather comes, like dark in the morning, dark in the evening, like grey and drizzly, I'm like, ugh.
I generally, I think people underestimate how many people actually are affected by SAD. That seasonal, effect. Yeah. I genuinely feel like it's something, particularly in the northern hemisphere. I think there's definitely something
Not
there.
northerners in the UK, isn't it? I was like, no, I'm talking like yourself of northerners.
I'm very proud of being up north.
No, just
I'm used to it, Grey.
just generally in the world, us in the northern hemisphere are affected by it.
We're just miserable.
It is, and it's that whole sort of like the pessimism of, oh, we've got this for the next 6 months now. And I do think this leads somewhat nicely into the conversation that we're having today about like improvement and healing and how we feel, and actually how things can really affect us and what we try to do to mitigate like those feelings.
I think there is a real trend at the moment, particularly kind of on that social media lifestyle aspiration kind of realm around self-help, helping yourself, like, giving yourself that self-love and self-care. Now, obviously, for those who have listened to our podcast for a while now, they know that we very much do try and stay in that, area. But I think people really, really underestimate how hard it is. This isn't like, oh, quickly book a session for your like pedicure.
Yeah.
This is deep. This is hard work of healing, nourishing, like really addressing the problems properly.
And I feel like we all feel like we need to do it and it's waved in front of us, but we don't know quite how to do it. And you've been like really honest and quite vocal in this podcast before about like your like healing journey, your therapy journey. So like maybe that's quite a good place for us to start in terms of like I know for me, and come on to me after, but like how old were you when you first started like therapy, and did you like think of it as like healing for yourself, or was it like attributed to something very specific?
That's a really interesting question, because I started my therapy journey when I was about 16.
Okay.
But I was told to go to therapy. So I wouldn't necessarily say that's when I started my healing journey.
Okay.
Because I was told to go to therapy because there was something wrong with me and you're having a problem and you need to go get that sorted. So at the age of 16, I was told to sit in front of someone and I was told to kind of sort myself out.
But were you aware of what those problems were at the time, or was it
I didn't think there was a problem.
Right, okay.
So again, it's that whole thing of like, when we're talking about self-care and we're talking about sort of like your healing, journey, adventures, whatever you want to, describe it as, you cannot go on that self-help journey or that therapeutic sort of, ambition of delivery, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, I'm getting mixed up with my words, but you can't do it until you're ready to accept that you need someone's help to help guide you. And that's one of the arguments I've had for so long with people, is that you can think that you need help, but until you really know you need help, you're not willing to embrace it.
And I think so many of us, we sort of accept that we're not perfect, but are then really protective still of our flaws. And I know that for me, like I'll say to anyone, like, I know I'm not perfect, I know this is my problem and blah, 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 blah. But then if somebody calls me out on that particular thing, I get really protective and defensive of that.
Yeah. And this is one of the things as well, because therapy, when you're sat with a stranger, ultimately, you know, who ultimately you will rely on, because obviously a therapist becomes obviously part of your, there's a relationship that builds there. But you're being vulnerable, you're opening up yourself. Whereas, you know, things that you need therapy for is when you've had to try and protect yourself. So again, you've built up walls, you've built an armor to protect yourself. And a therapist is, and any kind of therapy, whether it's a therapist or whether it's, you know, any other kind of treatments that you can have or any other support groups, whatever, they're there to help knock down and chip away at that wall to get to the issue.
Like, do you think like therapy now, like on social media, like celebs, influencers, whatever, it's almost like fantasized a little bit.
Yeah.
In terms of oh, this is what we can do to improve ourselves. Like, you know, you see all those memes, those reels, those Facebook videos or whatever, you know, where it's like, you just need to do this, you just need to do that. And it's like, yeah, well, that's really hard, or that's okay, whatever.
Yeah, I really think there's something around, and again, I mean, we started this podcast because we wanted people not to feel alone, right? And half of that is that mental kind of anxiety of feeling isolated because, oh my God, am I the only one that thinks this way? So it's really hard, because I think I love the fact that we're talking more and more and more about vulnerability, about being ourselves, about our issues, and they're not, and we're not looking at them as flaws, we're looking at them as just, you know, part of our personalities that we need to work on, you know, part of our character. But I genuinely feel that there's a lot of buzzy people out there.
Yes, and that's what I was going to say. I feel like so much of the stuff online helps you see what your flaws are, but a lot of people don't have the means to then actually follow through and do the proper therapy.
Exactly.
So they're then feeling like less empowered and less a version of themselves, because they're looking in the mirror thinking, I've got this problem, I could be doing this, I could be doing that, I'm not doing that. But then they don't know how to sort it out, or they're reading, you know, it's like what they say, like, you don't really need any qualifications to post, or well, you factually don't need any qualifications to post anything online.
True.
They are listening to people that have no background potentially, and they're doing it because they want to grow a following, whatever. So you're listening to all this conflicting information about how to like handle yourself. Like even just going back to like your therapy situation there, you feel like you were like forced into it. You know, at what point did you then like it turn on its head and then it become I need to do this thing, I'm going to start?
I mean, unfortunately for me, it was because of an incident that happened to me when I was at uni, and it was not a very nice incident. And I think but there was a lot of denial that came after that before I realized I was in a really dark hole and I needed help. Some people don't even get to that stage of registering they need help. And that's what really gets to me about that, what, you know, these buzzy people on social, because again, like, I really appreciate, as someone who is very mental health positive, like, I want us to talk about mental health, but there is a real concern I've got, is that when I do see all these sort of podcasty, interviewee, therapist style kind of conversations going on, I'm like, yeah, but that's one individual's journey. And as much as it's amazing that people are exposing this conversation, there is part of me concerned, because someone could interpret that as what they need to do, and they don't. It's
idolizing that person's experience, and maybe see some like relativity between that person and them, and think, okay, well, that's the answer, that's my answer,
and that's it. And that's where sort of, you know, there's a danger of them kind of going up and going to their mother that this is, you know, and going, it's your fault, you know, you did this to me and I'm angry at you. And it's like, actually, no, it's not. It's something that's happened somewhere else. That, you know, what we've got to remember, our minds are absolutely incredible, you know, organs. They're just phenomenal, and they protect you. They're like your third parent. They are there to protect you. So there will be many times, all of us will have had a traumatic incident, however minor we may feel it to be in the business of like being alive. your mind will have oppressed that, put it to the back of your mind and either deleted it or blacked it out so you can cope. And again, that's where like those are the things that, you know, therapists are trained to unpick and find and help you unlock so you can process them and deal with them. Whereas like you say, if someone watches something and kind of goes, oh, my mum was a bit like that.
Yeah.
My dog was a bit like that. My teacher was a bit like that. Like they kind of go, oh, well, it's her fault. And again, that's a projection. It's like there's a part you play in every situation. You know, there's the incident of what happens, and then there's the story you've built around it. And again, I feel like we're going very deep here.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, I am not a trained psychologist, and I absolutely advocate for people to go to kind of trained mental therapy support, not listen to me. But I just really want people to know that there is a benefit of being open and honest and being vulnerable, but at the same time, you know, that there is a danger that comes with that.
And I think like different people are looking for different things out of therapists. Is, you know, I think sometimes just having a safe space to get things off your chest, because, you know, if you don't feel like you have a confidant or, you know, somebody that will listen without judgment and, you know, give you impartial advice, sometimes that is what you are paying for. Somebody just to listen to you and tell you it from a impartial point of view. But, you know, if they then don't tell you what you want to hear, that is then a challenge as well.
Well, it's really interesting. Someone told me a really interesting metaphor on what they kind of viewed a therapist as. And the therapist is almost like a viewer of a television soap opera. You're the soap opera, but you don't know what goes on in the different sort of scenes. You know, you're only in one kind of scene, and they're viewing the whole thing. So they kind of can see what's going on. But obviously there's bits of the story on the soap opera that you're never going to see because it's all about the viewer taking in like the apprehension and sort of like looking at the whole. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And this is something I've always thought from, you know, conversations I've had with people that have been in therapy, and from listening to what they've said, I've sometimes like felt like they've been putting on a front for the therapist or not being 100%. True. And they're saying what they think they need to say for the therapist to give them the answer they want to hear. And then when I'm hearing it back or whatever from their perspective, I'm sort of like, oh God, no, that's not true. Like, you shouldn't have said that. And that's really difficult as well, because they're seeking the answer that is going to satisfy them.
Exactly.
But the therapist see through that. Tell me.
Yes, they absolutely do that. I mean, to be actually, no, I'm not going to just say yes, blanket yes, because that's I can't speak on behalf of all therapists around the world. But I genuinely feel that therapists are trained.
They can see
in the spectrum of. Yeah, and I think this is again going back to our earlier point about you have to be ready to accept you need help and you need to sit there and lay bare. It's a bit like, you know, we all don't like going for our smear test, do we, girls? You know, none of us want to like whack our legs open, up you go. Like, it's not exactly pleasant, but we know we have to lay there vulnerably, awkwardly to make sure that we are safe in terms of monitoring to, you know, that we don't get ovarian cancer and all the rest of it and what have you. So there's a reason of the laying bare, but if you're not ready to lay bare, if you're not ready to go there, that's okay too.
And I say that as if you know, that experience of other people telling me about their therapy sessions, but I can relate that very much to myself as well. Like, I find it really easy to talk about challenges that I have if they are almost like third-party challenges, I like to say.
You are very good at that, actually. The way you do it.
But I'm often find it easier to talk about situations that I'm dealing with or challenges that aren't directly me. Whereas if you put me on the spot and like ask me what my issue is or why I am a certain way, like, it's that thing I've said before, is like I get that like on the tip of my tongue and I can't get it out. Or why don't you do that? Like, why do you struggle to apologize? Why why are you defensive and all of this sort of stuff is that I really struggle to answer that.
But I think that's okay too, Erin, because I think what you're amazing at is spotting something. So whether it is that, you know, there is an area of your life that you know there's something in that that's not quite okay, or you know you're willing to go there, and the therapist in whatever shape, form, counselor, special therapist, psychologist, whatever they are, they're trained to help that journey of, I don't know why, but I know there's an issue. So again, when you're going to a therapist, and you know, they will sit you down and they will say, so why are you here today? What would you like to talk about?
Oh yeah.
And again,
isn't it?
I've been in therapy sessions, and I think I have mentioned this before. I've been in therapy sessions where we've literally talked about nothing.
Yes, yeah.
We've literally talked
God, I'm
about,
paying £75 an hour for this.
Yeah, but part of it again is the therapist trying to get you into a zone where you could, you know, be ready to share. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
So I feel like, and we've said it now, is like social media and all the influence and things like that have made it much more acceptable and people much more open to things like therapy. Like so many people I know now are quite happy to speak about being in therapy. They'll do it more of like a maintenance thing. Whereas, you know, we often on this podcast speak about like our parents' generation and things like that. And like I look at like my parents or whatever, and I think, God, you probably bloody need some therapy for that. And they're so against it. And I say to my mum so many times, I'm like, why don't you just go and speak to somebody? She's why would I speak about it 50 years on? Like, why would I do that now? And I'm like, why wouldn't you do that? She's like, it's not going to change anything. And I'm like, yeah, but still, like it's obviously bothering you.
I think that it's really interesting. I think there's a generational thing, but there's also a cultural thing. I think being British doesn't help.
Yeah, because it's really common in America, isn't it?
Oh, like the maintenance, like you're saying. That's one of the best ways is to have like long-term therapy. And, you know, if I could afford therapy for the rest of my life, I will take it.
It's more just having that sounding board and like, I've had like therapy on and off. I think that first question I asked you about what age were you in you started having therapy. I think the first time I ever went to some form of that therapy again was like when I was around 16.
Okay.
Not so much forced into it. I was very agreeable to it. I was like really anxious, like just not in a very
So did you recognize how you were feeling at 16?
I think I'd spoken about this before. It was when I was just constantly having these thoughts about what would happen if I died. I think I've spoken about this before.
Yeah.
And it was on from there that I went to like the child therapy, what they give you like that. So it's like NHS based, that child therapy and like a bit of like CBT and all things like that. And it was there I had picked up my issues around like the self-worth things, you know, like feeling like I was forgotten, about those sort of things, and that's where it came from. And then I think I went back to therapy when it probably wasn't too long before we got married actually, and I always put it back to being like a significant change in my life, and it started to bring up these sort of like weird feelings and thoughts again in terms of like finality of, is that the right word? Of things is okay, this is like a real big life change now, and I started to get a bit funny, and I entered that therapy, done it for a little bit, again opened my eyes to a few things. Did I act on a lot of it, or did I make any changes? I don't know. But then interestingly, at various points I went back to that same therapist. Rory went to that therapist when he was going through some things, and then we ended up actually doing some couples work with that same therapist as well.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And initially she was a bit anti that because she said it's not great for me to be somebody who does both sides.
Yes, that's true.
But what she said is actually because of what she knows of me and what she knew of him, actually maybe she would be a good like mediator.
Yeah.
Because some of the problems that Rory and I were having at the time was I think we were failing to see each other's point of view and like understanding each other's emotions and actually just trying to work through that. And then we've had a few different therapists, probably a little bit more for that maintenance part of it as well. But then that is challenging as well. It's like finding a therapist is like, do you have a female therapist? Do you have a male therapist? And like, you know, there's all of those apps and platforms out there now, which makes it easier to find therapists.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's the challenge as well.
Excuse me.
You've got that cough that
I know. I'm just
it's tickling.
Right. I think I'm getting excited about this. I'm very passionate about this. I know. Yeah.
So that's the problem. Is you know.
But I think owning it as well, because I mean, it's a very daunting area. If you've never been in, it's a very, very scary place to go. Yeah. If you've never done it and you want to do it, stepping your foot into that space of therapists and choosing, you know, what type of therapy, because like as some of the apps and stuff, they don't cater for people who don't know.
Oh yeah,
they'll be like, would you like psychotherapy? Would you like CBT? Would you like, you know, EMDR? Like it gives you all the different, like, you know, some people don't know what they want.
We just want somebody to talk.
They just want someone to help.
And, and I remember Rory and I looked, his only prerequisite was it has to be a man, because our previous therapist was a woman.
Right.
And he felt that she didn't see or understand from his point of view. So I was like, fine, whatever. We'll go and we'll have a male therapist.
Yes.
Instead.
I think one of the big things is as well is that people, and again, I don't want this to come across like I know everything, because I don't, but I think it's really important that people recognize that therapists are like hairdressers, dentists. You stick with one you like. So it's okay to have a session and go, no, I'm not feeling it. It's okay. The therapists are all right with that. Like, that's why a lot of therapists give you like a free sort of chat at the beginning. So you can kind of establish a relationship and just see whether it works or not. And, you know, like Rory's saying about his prerequisites, that's fine. You know, because at the end of the day, like, you've got to feel comfortable to be able to open up and be vulnerable, right? And this is where, again, like, you know, the therapist you probably had when you were 16, because of the way that you felt emotionally, would be very, very different to maybe a therapist that you'd look for now. And there's so much to it. There's so much where it's such hard work going into that space and healing yourself from whatever trauma, whatever incident, whatever mental, you know, situation you're in. You have to be able to trust someone to be with you, whether it's your friends, your family. You know, you can have strangers. This is why AA works. Right? People go in because they're people in the same situation, but they are strangers. But they become friends because they're all in it together, because you can't necessarily rely on your friends and family because they have sort of You know, do you know what I mean? So like there's all sorts of different things that play into it.
And do you think that like we are looking at therapists as like the magic key? Like there's so many things that I think, God, I'd love to unlock that. I would love to be a better person like that. I see this being my flaw. I see this, how it's affecting my relationship, my this or whatever, this part of my life, but I can't change that. And are we relying on or have these high expectations that this fairy therapist with a magic wand is going to come and sort it all out?
And that's it. I there's a couple of things floating in my head. One, money. Let's face it, like the therapy sort of support that you get on the NHS will be different to the therapy that you can get from a, I don't know, therapist in Harley Street or, you know, some really posh where they've, you know, they're the one of the best psychotherapists. And do you know what I mean? There is privilege here. So there's limitation.
Yeah.
But then also, I don't know, I just feel that sort of, like you say about the magic key thing, people go to meds really quickly. Now, I'm on meds. I'm on sertraline. Like I'm on an anti-anxiety med. But there has to be a relationship where that's the coping mechanism. So the tablet is helping you get through, but if you want to get through, you need to do the work. And this is where I guess you and I have talked about this before, that to me, it's people need to recognize it's so hard. It's not an easy journey. Like, it's a really overwhelming journey. You know, you've said before about how, like, you know, you've questioned these things and you wish you'd know the answer.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, you and I have talked at length, avec alcohol or not.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about stuff because it matters to you. And I want to help you get through that in some way. But then also the stuff that you and I will never be able to kind of figure out ourselves because we're not professionals.
Yeah. And this, like, feeds into conversations that we've had before in terms of, like, so much of my worry is, like, what we're doing today, the impact that's going to have on our children in terms of how they are. Because as I try and, like, look within myself, or, like, try and, like, dig out those core memories, like, what has happened in my life that has made me feel or act or restrict or whatever in the way I do now, in a non-healthy way for me. Like, you know, as I said before, like, I quite easily, like, reel them off now, and Rory would be like, well done, Erin, you've been self-aware enough to highlight what your issues are. But, like, I really struggle to apologise. I can be really passive aggressive. But these are conversations that we've, like, had before, and, like, like, why? Like, why am I like that? I've got this control issue, but then I sometimes don't have a control issue. Like, is that?
But there's so many different things at play here. One, you know, there's more to it than just an incident or something that's happened. It could be an ADHD thing. It could be like a neurodivergent thing. It could be the fact that, you know, there's been an incident. My cat's just about to jump on you, by the way.
Oh, hello.
just let the listeners know my cat may come into view. She's snuck in.
Oh, she wants to cuddle. She knows I need some love right now.
I was going to say, but, you know, there's those things where I'm in awe of you, Erin, because I think you have, for someone like me who's been through therapy, you know, I can recognize stuff quite easily because I've been taught how, but you haven't been taught in the way maybe I have, but you're still really aware. And although, like you say, I don't know why, there's opportunity there. This is Jeannie, everybody. For listeners who can't see, my cat's coming in screen. But yeah, I think the first step is recognizing there's an issue.
Do you know what the funniest thing is I, for some reason, I can quite easily sit here with you and say what my known flaws are. Whereas if I was having this conversation with Rory, I would probably be really, I think I said this right at the top, like, be really defensive of my flaws. And it's even the person that you're with, or the fear of judgment, or it's really funny, isn't it, how we are like that?
But psychological safety. This is what I mean. And this is where, like, some people would prefer to open up to their mum than their friends. Some people would rather open up to their friends, to their managers. Some people would rather open up to their manager rather than their mum. You know, it's you don't know who that person could be that you feel safest with.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really interesting. There's this whole thing about, like, people think, oh, you know, well, it must have been this big thing that's happened. Like, PTSD is this big thing that happens to soldiers away at war. Yes, it does happen. PTSD is a huge thing in the military. But don't underestimate that moment that you felt in that supermarket that you were left by your mum by mistake.
Situation.
You know, and that's, again, like, you can't underestimate the small things that matter to you.
But that situation to another child might not have had that same effect. But you'd obviously had some anxiety issues anyway, which then made that. So this is what I'm saying about, you know, these people online that are telling us how to do this, these memes that we're, not memes, these reels that we're watching when they're talking about all of this, like, airy-fairy stuff that we should be doing and makes us, you know, aware and self-aware and all of this sort of stuff. It's difficult because not every single situation is the same. And, you know, it's tiring. This trying to improve yourself, like trying to be the best person of yourself, is tiring. And I feel like, sometimes this pursuit of perfection to a degree, you could call it that, makes us feel worse, because it's like, why aren't I being a better person? Why haven't I improved in this way? Like, why am I still like giving off or demonstrating these negative behaviors that I know my friends or my partner or myself want to change?
Yeah. So let me ask you, obviously we're talking about like the social media impact and this whole lifestyle of kind of self-help. Have you really resonated with anything? Have you tried to follow anything? Is there anything that you've picked up and gone, I'm going to try that, or this is something I should be doing?
I think unconsciously, like where I am now to where I was 6-7 years ago, I'm probably in a better place because, I, rightly or wrongly, I probably just don't care as much, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that is something.
And I think that touches on some of these things that we've spoken about before is, I just, a lot of the time, I don't feel the need to conform or the need to be like in it. And a lot of those things did cause me anxiety. And now I'm a bit like, you take me as I am or you don't take me at all.
That's self-worth and self-value. This is where some of the innermost kind of priorities, like values, beliefs, sort of things like that, worth, are some of the most powerful. And I think as you do get older, you distill what truly matters.
Yeah.
And if you listen to sort of like elderly people on their deathbeds and they say, what are your regrets? And,
sorry, I'm stroking you too hard. Sorry, darling. I'm passionate about this conversation.
I think elderly people are really knowledgeable because they're like, why did I waste my time on trying to impress all these people? Why didn't I spend time with the people who mattered? And it's so true. It's like, why did I not spend the time on the things that truly mattered to me? And in this world, we really, oh God, I feel like I'm really ranting, but like, I do feel that in this social media lifestyle-y kind of like, this is how you should be decorating your house. This is how you should be, wearing your bag or doing your hair. Like, it's sort of like get ready with me stuff.
Yeah.
It really influences us in that kind of life basic sort of value
but
level.
That point that you said about like you get to a certain point and you think, why did I do this or why didn't I do this? I really fear that I'm going to get to a point and I'm going to, be like, why didn't I address my attachment issues? Why didn't I do that when I was in my peak? Why, and actually, I don't know, like that does worry me that I will at some point look back at how I am now and wish I had maybe done more to be a better person in areas that other people wanted to be better.
Hey, look, I mean, there's two things there for me, for you. One, you're not ready, because if you were, you'd do it. You'd seek out more. You'd be more drawn to it. And again, this is this whole trusting your gut thing. Things that bubble to the surface, things that you're constantly thinking about are the things that you really should act on. So again, if something comes up and it comes up and it comes up, like if it really did mean a lot, and it's not saying that you would definitely act on it. It's more that you would be more enticed to because it's there constantly, like in your face. Whereas I don't ever think you should regret worrying, because you recognize things are a problem. And sometimes it takes years, decades for you to get to the headspace that you're ready to deal with it. So this is about being present in the moment, like trying to be yourself right now and enjoy who you are. And if you're making the right choices for like Erin, I think we've talked about this before about like, the whole choice thing, if you're not ready for therapy right now, that's okay. If you want to follow Jay Shetty or, whoever, like, just remember that your journey is not someone else's, and what works for someone else when they're going, oh, darling, you've got to go to this thing, it's fabulous. Like, no, you are so special. You're so unique. No one else is Erin. you know, you're Erin and everybody adores you for being Erin because I bloody love you for being you, you know, and I think it's so important that you value yourself. And like you say, you know, over the years, you've built that value more and more and more.
Yeah.
But it's still okay to think it's too hard. It's too hard work to do. And sometimes, you know, it might be just a drunken conversation with friends that helps unlock something.
And it is. And, you know, that is when people talk to me about what we do on this podcast, one of the things I always say is it just feels like therapy. You know, this like the outlet of just being able to
ranting.
Yeah, to get something off your chest, like have somebody else like agree or disagree, and feel like, you know, you're just putting it out there for, you know, to the world, to the universe, and see what comes back. And, you know, often we do feel like, oh, we've got this now, this is how it should be. And so much of the time we're just like, maybe not. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's, you know, all of the conversations that we have like really pull me back round to, you know, that was one of the things we wanted to do with this podcast. Is like we were just having these conversations where we agreed, we disagreed, and we were like, if we're feeling like this, then maybe other people are feeling like this. And that's normal. The abnormal is actually normal.
Yeah, completely. And again, it's like, what I love is that, you know, we're not the only ones feeling like this. We know that because we've got some lovely people who obviously are part of this tribe now. And there's definitely a part of the journey that you go on that you'll have good days, you'll have bad days. There'll be days when you do not want to talk about anything. There are days when you're feeling like, hey, do you know what, sister? Like, or friend, or whoever it is, or husband, boyfriend, whatever, partner, where you're just like, yeah, I want to get this off my chest right now. This needs to come out. And your body will tell you, like, there's, I don't know if anybody else has had this, but like for me, I've had moments where I need to watch something to make me cry because there's something bubbling inside.
Yeah, we spoke about
I need it out. That's therapy. That's therapeutic. You know, this is where that shopping addiction comes from. Retail therapy, you know, it's things to help you. You know, it's that whole thing of like, you know, you've got to find your space, your time at the right time. You know, and it's okay not to either. And like you say, we don't got this.
No, we absolutely don't most of the time.
We like to think we do, but you know,
sit here and preach and hope for the best.
That's it. And I think at the end of the day, we've all got to trust in our gut, and we've got to realize that it's our journeys. We're all on our own journey, and it is so hard. Don't underestimate the struggle. We've all got stuff going on. Not only are we supposed to be trying to self-help ourselves, but we're also trying to make sure that we've got the right uniform for tomorrow. Have they done their homework? Have you got your packed lunch sorted? What we're going to have for dinner on Friday? Do we have the stuff in? Oh my goodness. Have you seen that we've got a bit of damp? I need to get that mold paint to get that damp sorted. Oh, did you? Right, we've got Christmas coming up. What do I need to think about Christmas dinner? Who's coming? There's 700,000 things in my head, as well as me trying to keep myself mentally stable.
Whew. I feel unstable after that list.
Well, I mean, maybe we should have another glass of wine and we'll try.
I think so. Well, that was a good chat. I feel better about it. Like, I think there's a lot still we could talk about with this. I think therapy and healing and self-improvement, self-awareness, self-development and all of that. It's such a big topic.
Huge.
But I think the one thing I want to take away from it is like, I think there is a lot of pressure today to always be improving. Like you've probably seen those things online. It's like where it says like, turn your phone off and have this thing for 30 days where you become a better person and do these courses every day for 30 days. It's like, no, I just want to sit on my phone.
Dopamine hits, don't underestimate them. The dopamine hit of a scroll.
That's what I mean. Like, it's that pressure of like, oh, am I not good enough because I'm not constantly trying to improve myself? Whereas actually, I'm just trying to relax, and that is enough. That is enough for me in terms of therapy. Just trying to relax.
Do you know what? That phrase you've just used, Erin, that is enough, because some things are just enough. Do you know what? That 20 minutes that you have scrolling, sometimes that is enough.
Yeah.
That extra 5 minutes on the toilet. That is enough.
Yeah, it's just that wind down, isn't it?
It's just having those moments and having those, that's therapeutic. It doesn't have to be along, like you say, about doing this course or going on this therapy weekend or doing this yoga retreat or doing this sort of mindfulness course or whatever. Sometimes it is just so simple. It sounds silly to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where kind of we need that. There is so much more, like you say, and I'm sure there's plenty of things that you and I can share on our own journeys. But I guess the main thing for me is just know how hard it is. It's hard, and don't underestimate how hard it can be. And we are all in this together, and we really value that people are trying to live. And it's really difficult at the moment. Life is hard. Adulting is hard. There's so much that we're trying to do. And, maybe we've got this.
Maybe we don't. Nah, maybe. Well, on that note, good conversation.
Yeah. Thanks, babe.
Yeah. And thank you guys for listening. If you haven't already, like, follow, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. And please leave us a lovely little review, as it helps other people find us. And it means so much to us to just hear your comments as well. So thank you.
Yeah, we had some really nice ones on Apple Podcasts as well. We saw a few flurry coming through. So Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Obviously, there's our email address as well. And yeah, get in touch. We really do want to hear from you. We're not just saying this because we want to be nice.
Yeah, no,
we genuinely want to hear from you.
Conversations to be had. Well, on that note,
all right, babe. See you next time.
Catch you later.
Bye.